Oh, empathy and compassion. Oh yeah, that was really interesting. I hadn't really thought of things in that way. I think I did. Mercedes and I did an episode on empathy versus compassion and safety versus protection, and a couple of we had like a versus series of like this versus that. And there was the one on, we did one on empathy compassion. I really like how Dr. Porges differentiated the empathy versus compassion. And the basic idea here would be that empathy is the capacity to feel someone else's feelings. And compassion is the capacity to feel someone else's feelings while retaining your own state of safety and your capacity to help. And I don't know if the help aspect is crucial to compassion. I think the biggest thing is feeling someone else's feelings while also staying in your own safe and social state. So that's the way he differentiated those. I think is really good because, and when an example he used was for therapists. We have lots of empathy, so we hopefully should we could hear what our clients are saying and feel it at the same time, or at least in our own version of whatever they're feeling. So we can feel, and that's empathy. But if we just feel their feelings, that means we're also going down our polyvagal ladder. And that's not necessarily helpful, because when we empathize and we feel some stuck energy just like they are, we're going to go through our own polyvagal state shifts. And he was saying that means we're going to lose, if we lose access to the top of our ladder, we're also going to lose access to the skills that come along with it. And so that would be my capacity to smile. That would be my capacity to make gentle eye contact and eye squints. So if we empathize but lose access to our safety state, then we're just matching that person with defensive energy, and that's not necessarily, well, it's probably not helpful, and it actually might be reinforcing their defensive state. So if someone tells me something they've been through or are going through, and my eyes go wide, like I'm freaking myself out just looking at myself in the window here. My eyes go wide, and my affect goes flat, and I'm just like, and I back up, like I'm just reinforcing their defensive energy, right? But if I'm able to listen and squint my eyes and nod and maybe even tilt my head a little bit and to show all these things indicate that I have access to my safety state. So I can hear you, I can maybe understand on some level, maybe feel, empathize on some level, and I'm okay. And I still have access to my safety state, so I can handle whatever you're bringing up. I can hear you, I can give you that listening that people need, and also be okay. And so now if someone can feel those feelings, share those feelings, and have someone on the other end of that that's okay and is giving those cues of safety, those co-regulative cues of safety, that's compassion. And the way that person would help, I suppose, is just by those actions of listening and not reframing, but just, I don't know, making sounds that they understand or that they hear, like, and maybe paraphrasing. There we go. That's where paraphrasing. Like, this is what I'm hearing you saying it in their own way, and did I get that right? So things like that that's compassion, I think. I understood it as empathy, as feeling another person's feelings and maybe taking on their stuff. I would call that codependency. Kind of taking on someone else's, taking the responsibility for someone else's change and their pain and alleviating them from that through enabling. That's codependency. So taking on their stuff, like as a therapist, when I empathize, I can feel another person's feelings in my own way. I mean, I take on their stuff. Although I guess what you're saying is, I can kind of see what you're saying. So if I'm empathizing and I've lost access to my own safety state, it's not their stuff. It's like I'm just sort of mirroring their defensive energy without taking on their problems in a way, whatever they're coming in with. But I think I can kind of see what you're saying, and I don't think I disagree. Compassion would be holding space, maintaining your own boundaries. Yeah, I think it would definitely look like that. Yeah, so the ability to hold space, the ability to hear and still be okay for myself as a listener. I think that we could call that compassion, as long as I care. I mean, I think it's kind of a central part of compassion, is that we actually care, and we take that person's feelings seriously, and we see validity in what they're saying and how they're feeling. Mostly in how they're feeling. Yeah, we don't have to necessarily agree, I don't think, with what they're saying. It's not about that, and I'm not talking about as therapists here in particular. Although that applies in therapy. Like, there's kids I work with in schools that I know they're just bullshitting. Oh, sorry, I hope you don't mind me swearing. Like, I know the version of the story. I've already heard it from a teacher or whoever else is involved, and I hear it from my student client, and I hear their version. I'm like, I don't have to validate what happened. I can validate how they feel. I can take their feelings seriously, even though I know that they're bullshitting. That's my non-clinical way of doing things there. Co-regulation and paraphrase, not regurgitation of what they said. Yeah. So you really have to, as a therapist, or I guess as any listener, as any caring individual, we have to really care about what they're saying, about what someone's saying, and be able to, if we get it, I think we'll be able to reword it. And I find, as a therapist, that I'm able to reword things and add to it, but in simpler terms. So if someone's like really going into some feelings and they're kind of all over the place, my capacity to hear that and say, it sounds like you're really overwhelmed. That's a really simple example. But that would be like, I've said that in a handful of words versus all the words. And I added to it because I'm giving them a word for what they were describing, overwhelmed. And so now I'm simplifying, making things manageable, giving them a new word that adds to what they're saying. So we could say, it sounds like you're overwhelmed. They could say, yes, I am. I'm very overwhelmed. And then it sounds like you're overwhelmed with, there's a feeling of this and a feeling of that and a feeling of this, plus these real life events going on. And they could say, yeah, like you're understanding me. Like hopefully they feel like they're being understood. And just being able to paraphrase or simplify. For me, I feel like simplifying is a lot of what I do as a therapist.